Welcome to the Wealth Zen, where true prosperity meets purpose, with Sam and Charmaine.
Yes, my bestie is back. She's in studio. Charmaine Soobramoney. I like saying your name. It's got money in it. And then we've got, obviously, the Wealth Zen that we do every Tuesdays. How have you been, my friend?
I've been fabulous, Sam. Thank you for asking. And it's good to be in studio with you.
Yeah, I can see that you've missed me. I can see that you're about to cry. Listen, tell our people, what are we trying to do every Tuesday with the Wealth Zen?
The primary objective of the Wealth Zen is to make the point that wealth is more than just money. It encompasses so much more. And the ultimate goal, Sam, is peace. And the point that I do want to land today is health is wealth.
100%.
And no matter how much money you have,
if your health is gone, you're in deep trouble.
And just to land those nuggets of hope. Yeah.
So who is this deeply accomplished author? I was at a book launch. Feels like a million years ago. It literally feels like a million years ago. Who is this? Tell our faithful who's listening to Gauteng's official feel-good radio station. Tell us who is Jean.
Well, the amazing woman in the studio today is Jean Archery, a very good friend of mine, and your friend too. Hey, Sam.
Yeah, but not as good a friend as yours. I mean, Jean and I see each other once critical year, like every so often now and then.
And it's an absolute joy to bring Jean into the room. Actually, she's an accomplished author. She's written
We met at her book launch.
We've met before that, Sam.
No. We met, Jean will tell you, we actually met at her book launch at, what was the Scoops?
Mrs. Spiggles and a book launch.
100%. So,
it's a small world then, I would actually.
So that's actually where we met, if we have to tell our audience.
Amazing. So the reason I actually... accomplished author, financial wellness coach, a beautiful human being on a mission to be able to contribute to the world of peace from a coaching, from a knowledge share perspective and all of that. And the reason we invited Jean here today is to be able to talk about women and money. And the reason for that is we're moving from Savings Month into Women's Month. But more importantly is to also celebrate women holistically, because so many of us know of innovators that are male. No chat GPT with this question. How many of you can rattle names of women that were instrumental in creating safety innovation?
Safety innovation. What does that mean? Like the seat belts in your car? I don't know.
Okay.
Although Hidden Figures exposed those 3 women that were part of the NASA program, and it's part of the reason we have GPS now.
Fabulous. But like the windscreen wipers, water storage, water purification, the surveillance, video, all of that.
Well, surveillance and women go together.
Yeah, but the real security surveillance that are protecting people.
Not watching where your husband goes.
We're all created by... We're all created by women, and we don't really talk about that. And all those innovations we speak about are generally men. So it is to start Women's Month. Jean, over to you. Just tell us why you do what you do and how you have the desired impact.
Thank you so much for having me. Women and money, children and money, 2 of my very favorite topics, something that's very close to my heart. Charmaine and I actually worked together probably, I can't even remember, 2012. So Sam, I know Charm's longer than I know you.
Yeah, I have never debated that. I've never disputed that on any level, ever.
Yeah, so, I think maybe a little bit a share of how I got into financial wellness and why this is such a topic that's so close to my heart, because it is the reason behind why I do what I do and why I left my corporate job.
To do this?
To do this.
Because this is tough.
This is tough. This is really hard. But it's so rewarding because I get to see the shifts in people around how they used to think about money, and now, just having these simple conversations with them and how they shift their mindsets to start thinking and reframing money in a completely different way. A lot of us grew up with a scarcity mindset, and those are the people that I actually want to reach out to.
And our parents did a terrible job of hiding it from us, right? Because they themselves were not equipped and educated 100%. To understand their emotional relationship with money, and so they kind of thrust us into that, right?
Remember, our parents did the best they could with whatever resources they had. So it's not their fault entirely. But I think parents today have so many more available resources. I mean, we've got the internet. Our parents didn't have the internet. We've got a wealth of resources available to us. And if we're not tapping into that and we're not applying the lessons and consciously being aware of what it is we're thinking about money, how we're behaving, what we're saying about money, all of those beliefs and unconscious
bias
gets transferred onto our children in a negative way. So in order for us to break those cycles, we do have to be a lot more conscious in terms of what we're thinking, feeling, and saying about money. Profound, hey?
Profound indeed. So why is it that you do what you do?
Okay. We digressed a little bit there.
It's all right. We're just having a conversation.
So I was actually born into quite a wealthy home. My parents didn't come from wealth. They created their wealth. And, obviously back then it was quite difficult for a non-white family to be able to do so. And my parents were very young. I actually did the math the other day, and I think my dad was probably in his early 30s or late 20s.
Wow.
And my mom was a stay-at-home mom. They had 4 kids together. He was a successful businessman. But unfortunately, he was also an alcoholic.
Oh, not a good combo.
Not a good combo. And there was a lot of physical abuse in my home. So eventually, and years later, I would have this conversation with my dad, part of my healing process. And he ended up leaving us. And in that process, we lost everything. So
you went from having to not having?
To not having, literally at the age of 8.
Wow.
So quite a big transition at
An
such a young
adjustment,
early
right?
100%. Because in that process, I felt like I lost not only my dad, but my mom too, because my mom was a stay-at-home mom, taking care of 4 kids. And now she found herself in a position where she had to
go
work.
out and work.
Exactly. And sometimes working 2 jobs at a time. So all 4 of us who were under the age of 10 at the time had to grow up very, very quickly. And it obviously caused a lot of challenges for me personally, in terms of how I looked at life, relationships, parenting, love, trust, money. And, if we specifically focus on money, the challenge for me was the guilt and the shame of accepting help from other people, watching my mother have to go, who trusted the way her life was going to be and didn't really put things into place either.
Because there was nothing on the horizon saying this is going to come to an end tomorrow.
Yeah, and women back then also didn't really play such a integral role in terms of securing assets and securing their financial futures. They didn't really take a seat at the table.
Yeah, because I think the social structure was set up for a man to provide, right?
100%.
Everybody just understood that your dad goes to work. Women were working, but the breadwinner, typically the way we were talking to each other was the breadwinner is the man.
Yeah.
He goes out and...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, just going through that experience, I knew that was not what I wanted for myself. I knew that financial independence was going to be something that was going to be at the core of everything that I did. And again, a lot of lessons learned over the years, because a lot of challenges around dating, relationships, marriage, career, money, a lot of that stuff started to happen. And, I find that even at 51 years old, a lot of stuff is still coming up for me. So healing, I find, also is it's a journey.
It's a journey.
Oh, thank you for that quite personal share, Jean. Through you growing up, what was the biggest disappointment you faced or hurt that you went through, and how did you overcome that?
If I look back, I think I blocked out a lot of my childhood because of the trauma. And so for me, I became a very reserved, quiet, withdrawn child. Very shy, lacked a lot of confidence. I mean, people are gobsmacked that I can stand on a stage and talk today. So huge learnings, and I'm very grateful. I always tell people this. I'm so grateful for the lessons, because I wouldn't be here doing what I do if I hadn't gone through those.
But it also, I think it's an indication of how many bridges you've had to cross, right?
Yeah, and I mean, again, all part of the learning journey.
Yeah.
My life's been exciting.
But I just wanted to ask, based on the question that you asked, now you're on stage and you grew up this very shy, reserved individual. What is that switch? I mean, that switch from understanding this person to who you are now. Was it I know it's a journey,
Yeah.
but there must be a switch where there was a moment you looked in the mirror, you stood somewhere and you said, I've got to do better.
Wow, there were lots of switches along the way, but I think it was just. So when I left school, I wanted to be a child psychologist, and the reason behind that was because I wanted to make sense of my own trauma, but I also wanted to help other kids navigate through that. So I can't say it was one specific switch because.
Okay.
People ask me, how did you end up in financial services and you wanted to be a psychologist? I started studying psychology. My first year was full-time at a university. I didn't have money to pay for my studies, so my mom's entire family, all her siblings, paid for something.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so one would pay for my school books, tuition, accommodation, etc. And, at the end of that year, the guilt and the shame of accepting money, along with some other personal challenges, made me realize I can't do this. So that's where the toxic relationship or the challenging relationship with money actually played a huge role in terms of how long I would take to get to certain or make certain achievements and realizations in my life. So I quit after my first year, and I started studying part-time, working full-time so I could fund my studies. Took me 9 years to finish a 3-year degree, but we got there eventually. I didn't give up. I wasn't as focused. There were lots of challenges in that 9 years, but it was something I said to myself, I'm going to do this. I think also being a Taurian, you're very determined and feisty, and there's a fire inside you that just, I think so. It's a little bit of personality as well. I think I needed to prove something to the world. That's where it came from.
The fact that you didn't give up is so telling, and it's such an important point, though.
Yeah.
If you have the desire, the will, no matter how long it takes, and you back yourself, you'd be able to get to the other side.
Yeah.
So thank you for, yet again, a very personal share, Jeannie. You have tons of lived experience, not just about money, but just about life and being in your 5th decade. Some of the challenges women tend to face, the intention is to basically land some pertinent points to be able to help women navigate some of the life-changing stages that we all go through, right? What does that look like from your perspective, and what do you think are the important things for us to land today?
There's so many things, and I think, again, it depends on where you are in your life, because I think there's different messages for different women at different stages of their lives. And, if I look at it, and if we simplify this in a way that makes sense to people in terms of where they are at, if we look at it from a young person that's about to finish school, that's entering, they're planning on studying, or they're entering the working world, there's a lot of, and I find this through coaching a lot of young people, that there's a lot of confidence that they lack. And obviously confidence is something that you gain. It's something that you work towards. It's not something that you're born with. Clear example of myself. And, if I look at a simple example, like going on stage and being able to talk, I would sit in a boardroom in my mid-30s, and I would want to answer a question, and I would feel so much anxiety. You remember this, right? And I would be dying to ask a question, and I would work up the courage and all the nervousness and the butterflies in my tummy. And before I could even ask the question, somebody else has asked it. So, and then you're kicking yourself because you didn't do it. And then I started doing a lot of, reading and learning and courses. And eventually I found little tips and tricks that you could apply to actually overcome that anxiety. And that was be the first person to ask the first question. Because the first question never ever looks stupid to anybody else. And so I started aiming for that.
I do that too.
You as well.
I always ask the first. I try and ask the first question.
Yeah. So I think that helps you get rid of that anxiety, and then it's over and done with. But, if we're looking at younger people who are entering the work market for the first time, the important thing for them to understand is confidence is something that they can earn, that they can learn over time, and just to take those little small steps. When we talk about financial wellness, there's this assumption that people know everything about money, or that if you have certain qualifications, you're a lot more financially astute, and it's not necessarily true.
No.
I meet people who have doctorates who are scared to look at their credit scores, or who are scared to have conversations with their partners, who don't understand how their employee benefits work. And I know a lot of companies are doing work in this space to educate staff around, employee benefits and importance of saving for retirement. But there's so much for them to absorb in that first few months or first year. It's too much.
Yeah. When did you decide that, it's quite interesting, you wanted to study child psychology, but the first book you wrote were aimed at children?
Yes.
For them to understand the psychology of money.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that was because of a conversation I had with my daughter. And, I was at a point in my life where I needed to start teaching her about
Just say the name
money.
of the book for our listeners.
Mrs. Spiggles and Her Money Tales.
Okay.
Teaches kids between the ages of 5 and 12 about earning, saving, spending, and giving. And it was a story that was born out of a need to explain concepts to my own daughter at that time of her life. And I struggled, I was struggling to explain certain concepts to her, and I work in financial services, and I thought, how are other parents having these conversations, if they are? And that's
I think
how
simply,
it came
do you want to
about.
read Miss Spiggles?
I'll try.
Yeah, I think
I have a copy for you in the car, actually.
I think simply when I need money management. Let's go back to the basics of learning Mrs. Spiggles, right?
But that's what it is, right? I mean, it's the basics that we haven't fully understood, and because no one ever taught it to us, we had to learn this the hard way.
Yeah.
I remember when I bought my first car, I didn't have anyone guiding me in terms of telling me how interest rates work or what I
that
needed to
balloon
look out
payment
for.
looks like.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And all I could think about was this is how much I could afford on a monthly basis. I went to a car dealership and asked them, what can I get in exchange for this?
That didn't factor in insurance,
Exactly.
and all the other
or
stuff.
the 23% interest rate that I got charged back in the day, 20, 30 years ago, which was very low.
Which is very low.
Exactly, and I didn't know any better. So, if no one's teaching you this stuff, you're going to learn the hard way, and you're going to make lots of costly mistakes along the way.
I know that Charmaine's got a bunch of questions in the head, but as you're talking, I want to ask you this. You said that as parents, people today, we've got access to the internet. If that's the case, and you've also admitted that organizations are trying to do their bit in terms of providing some financial literacy, why are we still so financially illiterate?
I think life has become so overwhelming and so complex, and the world of finance and investing is just as complex, and I think we've overcomplicated things. We can't expect people to be saving for retirement, as an example, which is 10, 20, 30 years away, but we're struggling to manage today. So somewhere along the line, we're doing something wrong. You cannot save for the future if you are struggling today, because you've got to put food on the table today. Putting money away for 20, 30 years from now is not going to pay the bills and feed my family and keep them alive. So how do we manage
Or
that?
strike the balance between that ideology or ideas?
Yeah, and I think it goes back to the basics. So many of us grew up with this principle or idea that 1 degree is enough. No, it's not. If you want to keep up to date, you're going to have to continuously be educating yourself. Maybe not only through a degree, but informal studies as well.
Yeah.
Also, one income is not enough. You don't have to only have one source of income. You should be building multiple sources of income. If you are struggling financially and you feel that your career is not, progressing as quickly as it should be, there's nothing wrong with trying to create multiple sources of income. Side hustles, people, side hustles.
Just to build on what Jean has actually said. So the reality here in South Africa is the unemployment rate is high. People are feeling despondent. They need some sort of, and the Wealth Zen tries to ignite a level of hope, right?
Yeah.
To be able to take action. And to answer your points, to add to what Jean has actually said, the reality is here in South Africa, people have not changed their mindsets to go, you know what, I need to take control over this. And I need to, no matter how minimal or how small it is, change my behavior to be able to get out of the situation that I'm currently in. Unless you conscientiously elect to do that, we'll continue to be in that cycle of not accumulating, no matter how small, because it is about behavioral change.
Yeah.
And unless we can actually trigger that, nothing is really going to change astronomically, especially here.
So
Can I just say this? I think
Sorry,
there's something else that you mentioned as well, which I thought was quite interesting. That after the trauma issues with your father and him leaving and eventually having to go to university, there was a family member who was willing to pay for the books, who was willing to pay for this, who was willing to pay for that. So that I find that very intriguing, that there's this collective mindset that your family had, that we can move one forward, 1 inch, and then you look back and you bring the next person forward.
Pay it forward, yeah.
The power of community, actually.
Yeah.
And to be able to surround yourself with that level of support builds confidence as well. As much as it can
but I want
trigger.
to ask a question specifically
Crowdfunding nowadays, isn't it?
Well, it's kind of, it's family funding.
Family funding.
I love this idea. But often husbands and wives don't see themselves as that collective community. And I'll tell you why. Because sometimes there are couples now, they're fighting, when it comes to budget month, they're fighting. There's so much stress and anxiety that they don't realize that you guys are the community. You have the power. If the two heads are better than one, we know all the sayings. And we often don't realize that that person sitting opposite the table is not your enemy. But in actual fact, if we think about it, you said multiple incomes, think differently, be willing to, and I'm saying that if there is an opportunity for two, I'm sure if two people dig at this hole's going to get bigger faster, right?
Yeah.
I mean, a bit to get deeper. And I wonder how we don't see the person sitting next to you as an ally, as somebody who, yes, we're in it together, but we can also help ourselves to get out of this together.
And Nikki mentioned this on your show last week or
Yeah.
2 weeks ago. And I mean, I think, again, it goes back to having those important and difficult conversations, which we are not having. I mean, when I was married to my ex-husband, we also fought about money because we didn't have those conversations. Now, in my third marriage, I will definitely, in my next marriage, I should have said. In my next marriage, I know better.
So we have never been married, and he's even shaking his head and going,
No.
that doesn't sound right. In 2025, that doesn't sound right.
My next marriage, I'll do better.
We'll do a trick here. Charmaine has been married once. I've been married twice, and you plan to get married thrice. So that's 1, 2, 3. Oh my God! I don't think we should.
Running out of time, people.
We shouldn't lead anybody. We've got our own problems. Charmaine, that's why you're in charge here, because you're doing it right.
No, there's no right and wrong way, actually. Every phase you go through teaches you something. And as long as you can get that learning, it just grows you exponentially to be able to achieve one's goals and everything else.
Politician.
No desire to be, actually.
But, you know, the interesting thing is that, I mean, I talk about that lightheartedly. It was quite difficult conversations that, you know, we would have during the marriage and then obviously post divorce, to trying to navigate, financial conversations with your ex-husband. And I mean, there was difficulty on both sides because we could never see eye to eye. And I mean, it took us a long time before we got to a point where we have zero fights now.
Okay, cool.
Zero fights.
You friends?
We're on the same page, 100%. And I mean, he's
Sounds
a good
to me
dad.
like you guys talk once every 5 years.
No, often actually. You'd be surprised. Yeah. No,
Super
but
good
again, I mean, those are one of the other life stages
Yeah.
that women have to deal with, is navigating through divorce, having those awkward conversations, making sure they have a plan A and a plan B if their plan A doesn't work out. So there's so many things that we need to be educating women around money. Charmaine raised an important point about, the behaviors and how do we get people to start thinking differently in where we have living in economies where there's high unemployment rates. That scarcity mindset is also linked to a victim mentality. Sure. It's the blaming. It's easier to blame other people. It's easier to complain about our government not doing enough. To sit back and not take accountability, but no one's coming to save you. The only person that can save yourself is you. And I had that victim mentality for many years. I blamed my parents, I blamed the world, I blamed God, society. everybody. If I saw a rich person, I'd blame them too. It was just you grew up with scarcity. So who else is there to blame but everybody other than yourself?
Yeah.
But when you realize,
Can we do our flashing?
Yes.
Well, I got him a gift too, actually. Let them.
Let them. And the
That's
second
Mel
part.
Robbins, right?
Yeah. But it's such a profound book, which was gifted to me by my friend, by the way.
She didn't give it to me, and I'm afraid to.
I gifted you a ring, Sam.
Yeah, she did. I've got
A
it.
ring.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's
Let
what's
them.
like the third marriage.
Yeah. Let them.
But I need to drop something today. I'm in my second marriage, and none of you know about it.
Oh, okay. Wow, that is a conversation
Whoa.
for another day. You just
We're
destroyed
spilling the
my
tea
entire...
on this show.
Just assumed.
I
You
hope
have
no one's listening that ain't no Sam.
destroyed my entire perception of you, and I have to go into counselling because I've known you for so long.
But isn't this intended to be an authentic conversation
Yeah.
with no
100%.
filters?
100%, yeah.
Jean, you do incredible work, and you do shift people's mindsets and things of that sort. In your opinion, and in light of all the exposure that you've had with different types of people, what is the one or two things that we could potentially do to have the desired impact from people to heal, get rid of bitterness, and especially where women's concerned, when they divorce, there's an element of bitterness
Yes.
that we're unable to shift.
Yeah.
Yes.
How do we move that? Because once we get out of the
Great
victim
Yeah.
mentality, once we get out of that bitterness, life becomes easier, right? And we can navigate spaces with so much more confidence and love and joy and peace, and it's easier. What is it
Yeah.
that we can do, Jean?
And for me, it has to be that victim mentality. Because again, if I look at my own personal, story, and if you continue to blame people and play a role of a victim, your life is not going to change.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole let them theory starts with let people do what they want to do, because you cannot control what they are responsible for. So if
You're
someone
only responsible for what you can do.
and then the next part of her story is let me, or
Yeah.
the principle that follows is let me. So let me look at what I can do to change my life. What can I control in my environment, in my mindset, in my beliefs? What actions can I take to actually improve my life? And I think once we get people to start shifting out of that victim mentality and teaching them how to take accountability, we'll start to see that people are now believing in the power of them being able to do something. I ask people this all the time, do you believe you can be rich? And a lot of them will say no. Or
Yeah.
a lot of them will say I can, but it hasn't really sunk in. They don't really
'Cause
fully
that-
believe they can be
Because
rich.
that belief looks different. That is the Usain Bolt waking up in the morning, hitting the
Mm-hmm.
track, and knowing that he's trying to break his personal best.
Yeah.
And he's getting closer and
Yeah.
closer. And that does take a different kind of person, though.
Yeah. And so what I do is not only teach the technical aspects of managing money, and the tagline for my business money messages is shift how you think, feel, and behave with money. So it blends psychology, which is also a very interesting part about my journey, right? Because remember, I studied psychology, and my childhood experiences impacted the way I behave as an adult. So psychology and the psychology of money obviously plays a role in how we behave with money. Our mindset also plays a role in how we think about money. Our emotions play a role in how we feel about money. And so all of that actually plays a role in terms of whether we will achieve financial success or not. So I call it the think, feel, behave model, and it blends psychology, it uses coaching tools, and includes financial education and financial planning to give people the most effective, simple tools that they can use to shift their mindsets.
Just to piggyback on what both of you actually said, it's one thing to believe, I believe I'm going to be rich. It has to be, and you made the point, Sam, followed by action.
Yes.
And taking steps.
100%.
Just believing I'm going to
it's
be
not
rich
gonna-
is not.
Yeah.
You need to be very clear on what is it that you want to have, the process that you're going to embark on to be able to get there, and every step gets you closer. Every time you stagnate, it just keeps you where you are.
Yeah. And throwing and paying a Sangoma 20,000 rand to throw bones to tell you when you're going to be rich is not the way to go either.
Absolutely not.
Look, I've been reading a lot about the law of attraction and manifesting, because all of these, there's no set formula to achieve financial success or to change your mindset. You got to do what works, and you got to practice different things, and it's trial and error, and eventually you'll figure out what works for you.
Well, this has been.
Oh, we ran out of time. We ran out of time.
I mean, this has been
The nice thing is we can always invite you back.
This is an incredible conversation, Jeannie. Thank you for being here. Thank you for actually sharing. I hope it's landed with one particular person that's going to choose to change something about their life to move them in the direction that they need to. It's so in with the Zen framework, because
Yes.
about building your wealth, your happiness, and all of those great things. Sammy, thank you for actually having us.
Yeah,
it's been
nice
incredible.
Conversation. And then, Jean, where can people get hold of you? The point of the matter is, and I always argue this, if Usain Bolt, these athletes get up every day and they go and practice to become better and better, why are we as people not waking up every day and practicing to become better and better? And that means you need to get a coach, you need to get a consultant, you need to invest in yourself, because everybody else is doing it. Even Elon, the richest billionaires, have people that help them.
Yeah.
And so for whatever reason, we believe we don't need it, and we actually do. So how can people get hold of you? You were going to say?
I just want to say one thing. You asked the question as to why there's so much information and we haven't actually shifted the status of savings, because we don't really have accountability partners. Because when you have an accountability partner, you're more likely to actually achieve it, and that's where the coaches come into effect.
Yeah.
So where can we get hold of you?
2 websites, jeanarchery.com, that's www.jeanarchery.com. If you go onto that website, all the social media icons is on there, so you can just click on it. It'll take you straight to each of the accounts. I've made it very easy. And also, if you want to subscribe to Money Messages, that's moneymessages.co.za, also on all social media platforms.
Very
Super
easy.
easy.
Super easy. Jean Archery, is always a pleasure. Ma'am, as always, lovely seeing you. This is what we do every Tuesdays. We're on this mission together. We're learning. We don't always know all the stuff, but we know as adults we've got to do better. And I appreciate you for coming in, and we appreciate you for listening. Top of the hour, we'll have news, and I'll see you again next week.
Cheers. Love and light, everyone.